go on to our discussion, which is pretty much going to be Chris and Pete. Top 3 of September 2016. The last few months we've been doing these on the podcast just for sake of simplicity and time. I'm going to let you guys take it away.
Did you not do one? What the fuck?
I said I wasn't going to do one for August into September, and then October is where I restart.
All right.
So,
man.
Go ahead, Pete.
Wish I could take 2 months off.
I had my
Just
test.
kidding.
I had my test, you punk bitch. Work
crying like a
hard.
bitch.
Work his ass extra hard today.
All right. The fuck are we talking? Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah,
He
top
doesn't
3.
have his notes here. This guy
Yeah.
is ill prepared.
Yeah, I'm
For my top 3, it's a what?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I apologize, events. I was like up till 2 o'clock, like refreshing on my mind on all this stuff. I was like writing these awesome notes. Fucking left it at home because I'm this like Luddite who likes paper notes for some fucking reason. I don't ever put it on the actual script. So now I'm at a loss for a lot of stuff that I wrote. So, all right. But I do remember my order at least. So number 3 is Kodama from Alcest. Now, I've wrestled with this album for the last month or so. It's been an ongoing joke that this is pretty much all I've been fucking listening to because I've been trying to come to terms with it. But here's the thing. I mean, that's the nature of this band. I mean, they've been very kind of, I guess, controversial, maybe a little bit divisive. When they first came out, this is their 5th album. And when they first came out and they were sort of blending black metal with shoegaze and post-metal, initially they were very much still holding true to like the black metal, I guess, aesthetic and to some extent, in terms of like the beats that they were using and the vocal stylings. And it was just enough that it only pissed off a little bit. I would say just a few black metal fans. But as they went on, right, especially with their previous album to Kodama called Shelter, where they became more experimental and they kind of started to embrace, I guess, the softer side, the softer elements of shoegaze. That's when a lot of black metal fans lost their shit, And yet, ironically enough, more and more bands started to embrace this kind of sound for their black metal stylings. So that's kind of what you're in store for. It's always going to be kind of a challenging listen. I mean, every album for them is kind of a new progression in sound. And that's what's here. We still have like a little bit of the punchiness in terms of like the vocal styles and stuff like that, but it's definitely focused probably just as much, if not more so than Shelter, on those sort of softer elements of the post-metal side. This album, I think, from what I understand, is actually potentially may be a concept album. I think it's partly inspired by Princess Mononoke from, I forget what the Japanese filmmaker's name is now. But yeah, so there's some of that to it. What I really enjoy about their ability, and it's probably the reason why I was able to listen to it so many times this month, is that the opening measures of each, it's 6 songs on this album, and the opening measures of each one are just so strong. Like, they just pull you in immediately, and they just, once you're drawn in, you want to keep listening. So I knew that objectively it had to be a good album. I think what I wrestled with were the vocals, this especially because Nej, who is the front man, was really kind of putting those black metal vocals very much to the background, very much they're there, but they're not on display anymore, which is kind of like a dramatic shift, if I do say. But I decided it is a great album. I revised my early album review to say that it is definitely worth getting. I don't know, like I think it could have been number 1, but there was just a lot of competition in September. But still, it deserves to be up there.
Nice.
It was Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, thank you. God, was gonna kill me.
Yeah, we're not going to tell anybody you said that. We're going to get killed for the video game references. You not knowing who Miyazaki. Yeah, that's going to be rough.
All right. Number 3 for me this month was a band called Source and their album Return to Nothing. Now, these guys are a progressive metal band, which is like no surprise that they're made my top 3 at all.
Yeah, seriously.
Actually, my top 3 this month is very, very formulaic.
Oh, God. This is like this. Is your top 3's head up its own ass.
It's very cyclical with what I do.
It's an Ouroboros
and
going
it's
up an
really,
ass.
which is why when we get to the number one, I'll explain myself.
It's just a human centipede of progressive.
Yes, pretty much. But they're progressive metal from Boulder, Colorado, and I mentioned these guys before when I first listened to the record, and I thought of them as like a very good element of all progressive metal because they have the ambient side. There's a little bit of noodling in there. They have clean vocals with mixing with a little bit of harsh vocals. They have lengthy songs. Like we're talking about the 8 to 10 minute range for pretty much all of their songs. They have a sound of it that's kind of like a little bit of Yes, a little bit of Tool, a little bit of everything, really. It's pretty much everything that you would like about progressive metal all rolled into one convenient little package. And it's really cool. I enjoyed it so much that I listened to it twice through, and I even included the radio edits, which takes their 10-minute long songs and cuts them down to like 3.
I was gonna say like it takes their 10-minute song and cuts them down to about 8.
No, cuts them down to like 3 or 4, like pretty much cuts them in half. But it's a really great listen. I highly recommend it to anybody who's a fan of, like I said, Tool, Yes, even a little bit of Dream Theater, although they're not nearly as noodly, they're more atmospheric than that. But I would recommend this to anybody who's a fan of progressive metal. Totally.
Okay.
So, number 2 for this month is I want to say it's the 7th album from Insomnium called Winter's Gate. This is, I want to say this is their first like true concept album. It's certainly the first album done in this format. It's basically one song that's 40 minutes long and split up into, I think it's like 5 or 6 different chapters. And it's basically an album about Vikings who are on a search for this mythical island out in Western Europe. But so again, this is a band that I've been a fan of since their very first album back from 2002, and on display is their classic sort of melodeath sound. That's, you know, these very soaring melodies mixed with, you know, intense death metal growls. But I think for the first time now, we've got this tinge of progressive metal, and it's not a lot. I won't say that. I mean, this is very much still, you know, melodeath in the style of Insomnium. But as is sort of the theme with my top 3s this month, it's sort of represented a slow transition. I have a feeling that they have been sort of experimenting, you know, with more clean vocals in the last couple albums, and now there's this, you know, musical technicality kind of showing a shift, and it works for them. It really does. I mean, prog is not an easy thing to do. It's certainly not an easy thing to kind of mix in with something like melodeath, but it does work for them. I'm going to go on a limb and say that for sure that this is them at their best form. This is probably their best album to date. I've loved virtually all of their
You're wearing a
fucking
shirt
albums.
for them right now.
I'm wearing from Shadows of a Dying Sun. I just really hope they come back to the States to tour for this album. I would love to hear this in its entirety live. It is so phenomenal. I mean, everything, it's done in a sort of stream of consciousness format where each chapter, I guess, it just sort of bleeds into the next. You know, there's virtually no transition from these sort of soaring epic melodic death metal tracks, these little humble instrumentals, all set the tone for like the rise and fall of the story that they're telling. It's really well composed, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Nice. My number 2, not Tool, is the band Skalmold. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce their record title.
Oh, come on, it has so many Y's in it.
That's exactly why I'm not doing it. It's in here somewhere. It's so many consonants, it's not even funny. Yeah, there you go. Look at that.
Where is it?
That.
Oh yeah, we tried it.
Yeah, I think you got this. You got the second part. It was the first part.
Volkvasir Yggdrasil or something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, this is what they describe themselves as battle metal band from Iceland.
That is not a title I've heard so far. This is excellent. I like this.
All right. Well, I'm reading from their Facebook page right now. They could be described as battle metal, which is a potion of epic Viking metal, old school death and thrash metal intertwined with the Icelandic heritage.
It's if you've ever heard of a band called Insomnium, I feel like they are the ones that kind of champion that battle metal.
And they have, I'm still reading from their Facebook page here, and this actually plays into the lyrics part of it, is that the lyrics are all written under the strict rules of the ancient Icelandic poetry and influenced by the heathen roots of the Nordic nation. So pretty much, I was in the mood for something that wasn't Amon Amarth or Grand Magus.
But you still wanted to punch someone in the face.
And I still really wanted to punch somebody in the face. So I'm sitting there doing my back workout. I'm at the gym. I throw this motherfucker on and like, oh my God. It actually did really blow me away. Because away.
You got to work on that cadence, buddy.
Away. Anyway, they pretty much are exactly what I wanted from an epic battle metal band. There's a lot of thrash and death metal elements, like they mentioned, and of course you can't understand a word that they're saying because it's like they said, it's all in ancient Icelandic. But you don't really need to. You just get the whole anthemic feel of it, the history of it, the feeling behind it, all the words that they're saying, and I think according to their Facebook page, every last one of these guys sings.
Oh, really?
So
Wow.
yeah, there's like a lead vocalist, but the thing is, everybody has vocal credits, so I think they all do some vocal.
Is it
parts.
really an ancient Icelandic, like, or is it just Icelandic?
They say ancient
Oh
Icelandic.
wow, okay.
So, and the final track on this one, I don't remember the name of the song, but it's the most epic one. It has the orchestral parts in it that really just close out the whole album as something that has been epic. So if you guys are looking, like I said, if you guys are looking for something to kind of like get a feel for something that's not Amon Amarth, that's not Grand Magus, and like the mountain can train to, Skalmold is your way to go.
Nice. All right, so my number one, I mean, this is not just my number one. I think this would technically also be your number one too, Chris. It is Sorceress from Opeth. I mean, what really needs to be said about Opeth at this point? We're talking, this is their 12th album in a career that spans over 2 decades at this point. I think their genius has been solidified. They have secured their place in the pantheon of metal gods. There's just very few bands that have shaped the metal landscape the way that Opeth has done it and continues to do, and they prove that with this album. Sorceress represents kind of the, as we talked about, Chris, like that final stage of metamorphosis from their old death metal-ish roots to now this pure prog band. There's no growling on display here at all. The keyboard work of, I think, what's his name, Peter Svolgaard, I think I'm pronouncing that right, is really at the forefront now here on this album more than ever since, what was it? Was it the Deliverance, or like 2005 is pretty much, I know, when they really started kind of doing the keyboard.
They started incorporating more keyboards, like with Watershed, and then as what was the one after that? Heritage, Pale Communion, and then now.
Yeah. To me, it sounds a lot more like they've gone like the kind of almost 70s stoner style prog.
I was
right?
obviously going to say, like, I throw Deep Purple out there. Like,
Yeah,
there's got a definite
absolutely.
John Lord feel to their organ
Absolutely.
playing for sure.
Because that's the thing, is like, I feel like, especially like in reveries and things like that, I mean, it was there, but it was sort of muted in a way. Now it's like that 70s organ style, like, just, it's there. It's very much a key component of each composition. And it just, I don't know, honestly, my favorite song right now, just because of the just all the different elements of it, is Chrysalis.
Okay.
I really, really enjoyed that one. But no, this is a fantastic album. I mean, the idea that like a band can keep going this long and every single fucking album is just a game changer almost is unbelievable. Like, there's no questioning that these guys are geniuses, and being able to see them live now, I mean, that's very much the case. It's very obvious. It's true.
And one of the things that I keep hearing about with Opeth and their complainers or the haters really, is that they've gone soft. And no, not at all. The riff, the main riff behind Sorceress, the title track, is one of the heaviest things they've written ever. Just because it's not played at 1,000 miles an hour doesn't mean it's not fucking heavy.
And it doesn't make sense, because there have been hints about this shift since, like, if not their first album, for sure Morning Rise.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think of like To Bid You Farewell as kind of a foundational track in terms of all of this. You know, just that they had that range, that they could do clean vocals, you know, pure melodic style music. And if they wanted to, they can do the growls still. You know, I mean, it's just they don't, and there's nothing wrong with that. We have this huge fucking discography of theirs that at any one of those albums you can go back and listen to an amazing death metal album if you want. You know, you got to let them, you know, evolve. I mean, that's all there is to it.
And I think their evolution is fantastic. And I think there's a lot of bands that are kind of like following suit.
Absolutely.
We've talked about this before. Catatonia's been doing the same thing for the last 20 years, ever since Jonas couldn't sing anymore, do the screaming anymore. He went clean, and they've just been slowly but surely getting more and more progressive. And we talked about this before. It seems to be like progressive or prog is like such a buzzword now. Everybody seems to be kind of jumping on the bandwagon about doing something a little bit more elaborate, a little bit more musical, and like just like that. And I think Opeth for the death metal side has kind of paved the way for a lot of bands to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
And for everybody's purposes here, my favorite track happens to be Strange Brew. It's track number 8, and not just because of the title, because it's a Cream song, but because in the middle section of it, around like the 4:30 part, there's a section that sounds exactly like a Cream song. Like it should have been written by Eric Clapton and Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, and it's so fucking good. And there's, like you said, with the dynamic changes, Strange Brew sounds like 4 songs in one.
Yeah,
and it's 8 minutes long, and it's pure prog awesomeness, and there's nothing that can be taken away from that.
Listening to it on the vinyl, you know, you can barely tell where like a new song is beginning or ending because of all those dynamic shifts in the song, in each song individually.
That's awesome. Unfortunately, that was not my number one, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to bring up 2 honorable mentions here for me right now. The number one honorable mention would be Opeth, and the number 2 honorable mention would be Devin Townsend, Transcendence. And the reason they did not make my top 3 is because they're the obvious choices. And looking back at some of my top 3s for the last couple months, I've always had like the obvious choice: Killswitch Engage, Soilwork, you know, things like that. I want to give bands more of a shot.
So you're saying this to a guy who has a fucking outline he is stuck to accidentally for months.
Yeah, well, coming from me, at least I have new bands to fill that outline in. So, and I find that like Devin Townsend and Opeth, they release these amazing records, and it kind of feels like they get less and less fanfare every time, only because we expect it to be good. Like for us to be really talk about an album for me, at least for me to talk about an album, it'd have to suck at this point because I expect it to be good.
Yeah, pull out a load or a reload.
Pull out a Lulu, and then I'll talk about it ad nauseum. But
please don't do that, Opeth. God.
But Devin Townsend and Opeth always release good records to the point where like there's only so much I can say about it, and it kind of makes it unfair for other bands, at least on my side. So my number one this month was the surprise hit of September for me, and that is Oathbreaker. They just caught me off guard 100% because they are such a great blend of melancholy vocals and black metal music that I did not know what to expect throughout the whole record. I mentioned him before when the album first came out that the vocalist sounds very much like Portishead and Mierker. And the band itself is incredibly tight, kind of almost like a lo-fi sound. You know, it got the black metal elements of like the high octave strumming parts with some blast beats in there, but then they also have a lot of really quiet parts. Not necessarily orchestral, but very atmospheric, and there's just such a range of sound with this band that it just impressed me to no end. And I listened to this album endlessly when I first got it, and it just impressed me that fucking much.
Her vocals are genuinely creepy, and despite the fact that they're mostly clean vocals, you know, like just the kind of topics it seems like she's talking about and the way she just vocalizes them, it's unnerving, but I mean that's what makes that album so engaging in its own right.
You know what I actually think of sometimes when I listen to her, like in cartoons when they want to do like the sirens for like when they do like an Odyssey type thing, and they have that tripled vocal thing that makes it sound really creepy and like that. Yeah. She reminds me of that kind of creepiness, and like it's just so good.
It's very effective.
Again, that fills in my female-fronted band for the month. So I got my quota in for
Check.
prog, thrash, and female-fronted. I'm good to go for September. October might be a little bit more of a sausage fest, though.
Well, speaking of Sausage Fest, we're going to send this over to the New York side of things.
Now we just need a video of them actually eating sausage, which is
Oh my god, that'd be like a great transition clip.
they had
It'd
to
be
be
so
standing at a
literal.
grill. They had to be standing like a George Foreman grill in the studio. That'd be so great.